I'm going to introduce Dr. Verna Ruffin. She is the first candidate you will meet. She will speak a little bit about her background. Dr. Ruffin.
My name is Verna Ruffin. I come to you in Lawrence Public Schools as a finalist for your superintendent position with a background in education for several years. I started off my career as a teacher and a band director. I have taught all grade levels from kindergarten through high school in some capacity, or worked in some capacity, kindergarten through high school. As a band director, I was encouraged to move forward in administrative positions by some wonderful mentors that I had. I became an assistant principal, served as an assistant principal in a middle school and a high school, 2 high schools, and later became the principal of a high school and had an amazing experience there working with children. And it was a school district, and it was a school that needed some turnaround. I did that in Lafayette, Louisiana, which is home for me. Thereafter, I was recruited to go to San Antonio, Texas, and be the principal of a middle school, 1,600 students in another turnaround school improvement school. After that period of time, we had some wonderful results with children, and my student enrollment continued to grow until such time as the district was rezoned. I later became a director for secondary curriculum, and then I was recruited to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I became an area superintendent. I worked with 19 schools that were in dire need of student improvement, and many of my schools had a very diverse student population with nearly 100% poverty. As a result of that, we made some significant gains. I was asked to be an assistant superintendent for that same district, worked with curriculum and instruction, special education, and a large staff that worked to support schools through school improvement. I also had a wonderful opportunity working with teacher organizations as we also built the capacity to write a teacher evaluation rubric that later became the evaluation for the state of Oklahoma. After Oklahoma, I became a superintendent in Jackson, Tennessee. During that time, I served approximately 13,000 students and worked with a diverse school environment. I served a 9-member school board, and after that, we had a wonderful opportunity there to create some innovative programs to also make certain that all meant all, and that our students had an opportunity to continue to grow and to learn. During that time, we created a best academy for our students in elementary school. We created a middle school academic academy to best serve the needs of our students that were gifted and talented, as well as offering honors courses, and created an early college high school that allowed students to be able to go to school in a high school and earn college credits simultaneously, so that once they graduate, my first graduating class would have been next year, they have the opportunity to earn not only college credits, but they could graduate from high school and also graduate with an associate's degree. A wonderful opportunity for the students there. I was later employed by the state of Tennessee, which is what I do today, to work with the bottom 5%, the lowest performing schools in the state of Tennessee. I work with schools that are located in Memphis and in Nashville. And I live in Memphis, but I have 31 schools as a chief academic officer working with schools that are in the bottom 5% in all of Tennessee. But the majority of them are located in Memphis, and we have 3 schools currently in Nashville, and I'm certain that there probably will be additional schools that will be added over time. It is a turnover district in that it is operated by the State Department, and I also supervise 5 of the direct run schools that are public schools in Memphis. That is what I currently do. When I received information about Lawrence and have an opportunity to serve on committees to learn about school turnaround across the nation, I became very interested in Lawrence Public Schools because you have a partnership which is very different, and it engages the community, And I became excited about what I consider to be an opportunity to bring the skills that I currently have to a school district that really is with a vision of improving, making certain that all means all, and meeting the needs of the students, all pre-K through 12th grade, but also making certain that we address the needs of special education and our students that are English language learners. I looked at a lot of information about Lawrence. I applied for the position, and I'm honored to be here this evening to answer any questions that you might have about the work that we potentially could do together or any other questions that you may have. I'm a firm advocate for collaborative togetherness, which means that I don't make decisions in isolation. I think parents are such a critical part and a voice to speak on behalf of your children, as well as the entire community, and there are a lot of people that are vested in the work that is being done in Lawrence, and I would very much like to be a part of that. That's a little bit about myself and about what brings me here today, and then I will open it up for questions.
Good evening. My name is Eufemia de la Cruz, and I want to say thank you for taking the opportunity and looking at us as one of your employer. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your saying that.
Sorry, I didn't realize I had to walk down. Thank you, just like the previous speaker, for coming here and speaking to us. I think this type of things is really important. My name is Pavel Payano. I'm a city councilor, former school committee member, and I would like it if you could talk a little bit about, in Lawrence we have a community, an immigrant community. A lot of people speak Spanish at home. I know that there are some schools in Massachusetts that do dual language, and I'm wondering if you've had an experience with that, and also, if you were the superintendent, do you think something like that would be possible? And a second question would be around the starting age for young people. At least in Mass, the starting age is 5 years old. I think you have to be 5 by September 3rd or September 2nd. And so if you're 5 September 4th, a day after, you're not able to attend kindergarten. And I think that's something that it isn't right. I think students have, young kids have, as far as like their learning capabilities, they come at different ages. So a second question would be, do you think something like, would it be viable to start accepting kids that are ready for kindergarten at 4.5, or but before that September 3rd deadline?
I will answer all of your questions, and if I miss any part of it, I'm going to ask you to make certain that I answer it thoroughly. In answer to your question about learning languages in a program that's designed for dual language, yes, I definitely believe that it's possible. I know that it's possible. In at least 2 of my previous districts, we had excellent programs. One was a dual language, the other one was a language immersion. And both were very successful. One is it's currently operating and has a full enrollment, and that's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Eisenhower Elementary School, where students learn more than one language. They are learning Spanish. I believe they've added Chinese and, of course, English, and they do so by beginning with early cohorts of students, by intentionally recruiting students that are non-English speakers, and then also including students that are English speakers, and then the immersion program and the dual language program for the students as they learn both languages simultaneously. It has been very successful. It's a very popular program for our parents and for our students coming in, and I think that it was something that we definitely could explore in Lawrence. As I told the students that I met today, I think our students in Lawrence have such a wonderful advantage in many instances, because as we look internationally, there are not nearly enough employees that speak 2 or more languages. And so our students are very enriched in that ability to be able to know another language, to learn English, and to be able to use that to their advantage as a marketing source as they go on to discover their careers along the way. I myself would look forward to being immersed in the language so that I too can learn how to be able to best articulate and speak in more than one language. Like someone referenced earlier, yeah, you speak Creole, they won't go too far around here. Well, just because I learned how to speak Creole doesn't mean I can't learn how to speak something else. And I think the best way that you do that is to be immersed in the language. So yes, we could definitely do the dual language and the immersion programs. Yes, I have experiences with that, and they've been very successful in meeting the needs of the community. The challenge with the immersion and the dual language is being able to sustain a teaching force that would see that program from beginning through high school. Recruitment of teachers to be able to sustain the program over time. And so we've used some creative ways, some grants. We've done some work through the Confucius Institute to be able to bring in teachers that are willing to come to the United States and be able to engage in that kind of instruction long term. Then I'll answer your other question, which is about early childhood. When the law changed in terms of students being enrolled in an early childhood program, we were very disappointed as well, because we had students that really thrived with early childhood, and I believe in early childhood. We had, in two of my districts, we had the universal pre-K, and then, which meant that we had pre-K for the entire district. And then we also had some centers that actually went from birth to 4 years old, and then beginning kindergarten in 5. And those worked wonderfully. They were located within the communities that the students were served, and they met the needs of the students as well as their families. And then, of course, everyone knew each other, and the students were able to grow into the traditional school. It was a community school model, and it was highly effective in engaging parents and having those relationships that are very important for children, but starting at a very early age. I've had that opportunity to do that, and it's definitely something that can be done. In my previous district, when that age requirement came in, we were torn because we knew that there were some families, some children that were going to be of the age that would not qualify them anymore. And so we sought some clarification from the state. And what we were told was, as long as you're meeting the needs of all of the students that have met that age requirement, it's up to the district, because we had to fund it, it's up to the district if you wish to allow some additional students to come in. And we chose to have other students come in, because we saw the value in that early childhood education. So we made a concerted effort to make certain that we did not leave children out. As well, we recruited. We had Child Find. We do have some schools and some special needs that could come into a program at the age of 3, and we wanted to make certain to accommodate the needs of all of our students that way. And so we wanted to invest in early childhood, and did so by making it possible for families to have their children in school, as long as the class sizes were not too large.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon. Yo le voy a hablar en español porque es mi idioma primero y lo amo. Y creo que es la mejor forma de comunicarme. Mi nombre es Altagracia Maggi, soy coordinadora de Massachusetts Parent United en esta comunidad, y también he trabajado para el sistema escolar como madre embajadora en años anteriores.
So I'm going to communicate in Spanish because that's my first language, and I think I will do a better job. And I'm a member of Massachusetts Parents United, and a previous parent ambassador with the Lawrence Public Schools.
Estoy un poquito emocionada porque quiero agradecerle el hecho de que quiera venir a trabajar con nuestros niños en nuestra comunidad en Lawrence.
She's very excited that you want to come to Lawrence and work for our community.
A nosotros siempre nos ha preocupado la calidad de la educación de nuestros niños en las escuelas. A mí me gustaría saber cuál sería el enfoque que usted le dará o le daría si llegara a ser superintendente en las escuelas públicas aquí en Lawrence, con relación a la calidad que todos nuestros niños se merecen. Otra cosa que nos preocupa, con eso termino, es la seguridad en las escuelas, que hemos estado tratando y que ha pasado muchas cosas en diferentes estados de nuestro país, de los Estados Unidos. Me gustaría saber qué visión tiene usted para enfrentar esas cosas. Muchas gracias.
So, 2 questions. The first one is, what will you be focusing on to make sure that our children have quality education? That would be a brief way to explain it. And then the second one, given all the safety issues that are happening nationwide, what will you do to make sure our children are safe?
I thank you for asking your question in the language that you feel most comfortable with. And I'm so excited that you have done that. And I want to encourage you to continue, because it is my expectation, if I become superintendent, that we are going to be able to engage in conversations that are going to make our parents feel very comfortable wherever they are and in whatever language they speak. And while I may not speak that language today, that I would expect that we, just like we have today, the opportunity to have parents to communicate in the language that is most comfortable. So thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah.
The students that we are serving in Lawrence are very dear to my heart, because they have so much potential. And I say that even if I have not met all of the students personally. I did meet with some students today, and they shared with me from their heart what they would like to see. And they hear sometimes some of the negative that's being said about them. They know that that is not who they are. And what I said to the students is, what other people say about you does not define you, because you have such an opportunity, you have such talent, that you need to tell your own story. And it's a great story. There's a lot of history here. There's a lot to be said by a people that have joined together to do the very best for the children so that they can have wonderful opportunities. As superintendent, I think it would be my responsibility to make sure that we give all children an outstanding education, whether they are ELL students or special education students or students in an honors class, or students that are not in an honors class but aspire to be able to succeed in life. It is my responsibility as superintendent to set the stage for that to happen, to work very closely with our teachers, our principals, our central office staff, to work closely with our parents and the community, because there are a lot of people that genuinely care about what happens in Lawrence, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of businesses, and I see those as opportunities that we can expand on to make sure that we have excellent instruction and excellent programs for all children in our district. Additionally, I think it's very important that as superintendent that I work with everybody in the community so that at one point we're going to get back to local control. And I think that that happens by listening. So I'm an active listener. I know I'm talking a lot right now, but I'm also on stage with the spotlight on me. But in reality, I want to hear what you all have to say, and even more people, because that's going to help to define the vision for where we need to go. You already have a transition plan, but after the next few months, we'll be drafting a new plan that's going to be based on the data that's going to come out for this school year. So my vision is to make that really active and to make that come alive in Lawrence, and that everybody's going to know. So we'll communicate it. It's not going to be something that we're going to put on a shelf, but it is something that's going to help parents and our communities and our board and our alliance and our committees to know that we're on the right track to making great things happening for children. I have a vision for expanding career and technical education so that our students can really know that they fit in to opportunities, whether that's going to a community college, a technical college, a four-year college, or going to work. I want them to have excellent choices, and so everything that I would bring and recommend to our students and our families would be something that our parents can see would help their children to be able to achieve their goals. In answer to another very important question that you brought out, I think we have to do a better job of understanding each other. You know, we talk about the very number of languages, and we have a history where we have a lot of students and families that are immigrants. We talk about that, but we need to understand what that means, because everyone has a different story. It's not like we could just say we have a lot of immigrants in Lawrence. Everybody's different, and we've got to know that. I've got to know more about you than the fact that you speak another language. And you've got to know more about me than the fact that, you know, I've been around for a while and I've been a superintendent. You've got to know that I genuinely care for your children. And so I've got to understand more than just a name and a grade level. I got to understand a dream and a passion, and I've got to help you to get that for your children. And that would be my vision. I think within that comes this cultural competence piece. That means that you have to know more about people than just the surface, and I would be committed to that. And I would also make sure that my staff and everybody knows that that's an expectation. And we would teach each other, because we have to learn. If we don't talk and communicate, we'll never know what that is. And so I'm very committed to doing that. And I think that it's important for the safety piece, because we are on high alert everywhere you go, and it's scary at times, and we need to make sure our schools are safe. And how do children inform an adult that's going to take action if they are fearful? And what are our protocols? What are the steps that we take if someone is afraid of something? And then we have to trust and expect that that person is going to tell someone and not keep it a secret, or not blow it off and to say, well, I'll tell someone later on. It's too important for that. And the way that we communicate in person, the way we communicate in writing in multiple languages, the way that we inform our children who to go to if this is something that you hear, you know, the steps that we take to let our families know that we're providing a safe place for their children every day, to what happens if something happens. And then we also have to make sure we have a quick way of communicating that to parents. Today, with social media, you know, something could be happening right now, and before you have an opportunity to go home and tell it to someone, somebody's put it out on Facebook or on Twitter or somebody's Snapchat or whatever. It's out there. It's out there a long time before television. So how do we create a structure? I think it takes a whole team sitting there to be able to devise that so that an individual school can be safe and a whole district can be safe. We need to learn from the lessons where things really have happened and the devastation that it has caused. I think that securing school buildings is one of the things that we can do on the immediate front. And by that, I mean all of the safety procedures about making certain who comes into our buildings, making certain how they report to the office. But I think beyond that, we need to make certain that we know who are the key people on that campus that need to make sure that they know what's going on all of the time. And then how do they communicate that? I know that it's probably disappointing to a parent or to a family if something is going on and students are texting it and sending it out and nobody from the school has communicated to you yet. So I think it's important to put those steps in place that we know as fast as we can, because when you're taking care of the situation right then and there, you don't have time for a text. But as soon as you can feasibly do that, you need to communicate that so that people know this happened, but my child is safe, I don't have to worry. I think those are some of the things that we have to do. We also have to put in a very strong anti-bullying campaign because bullying is real and it hurts. And so within our schools, to be able to have effective ways of students being able to address that in a non-frightening environment, someone they trust that they can talk to before it gets to the point where the student is totally out of control and don't know what to do. And that's very sad, but it does happen. And it shouldn't happen. There should be someone there that knows how to be able to intercede so that a child doesn't have to go through that and hurt inside without an adult knowing that it's happening. And then we need to act on it.
Hi, so I come in two parts. I'm an alumni of Lawrence High School, so I also live in Lawrence, and I'm also a teacher at Lawrence High School, so I teach 10th grade English. And I want to say, I'm welcoming you here. Thank you for coming, and thank you so much for looking into Lawrence as your next, possible future endeavor. We appreciate you. Yeah. So my question is in regards to your Creating Schools comments, and what was the process in which you created those schools? I know that there can be a lot of controversy around establishing new schools, especially charter schools. In this community, how would you navigate the conflicts that might cause? And how would you justify building those schools or creating new programs within the schools? And the reason that I ask that, because I've seen a lot of teacher turnaround. And I would also like to know, how would you engage? I feel like I'm asking a lot of questions here.
Okay.
But how would you engage teachers as well as parents and students in that process? Because I know that as a teacher, I wasn't involved in a lot of the things that were done. And specifically as a teacher of color, this is where I want to be, but I don't want to see myself being pushed out because I wasn't included and because my time wasn't appreciated within the stakeholders and shareholders and the people who made those decisions in general.
If I don't answer them all, I'm going to ask you to repeat something, but I think I remembered them. In order to create those programs and the new creative schools and the innovative schools, that was done in collaboration with the entire community. And it took months of listening and having community forum and talking with the board and talking with teachers and parents. And we formed 3 distinct committees. We formed a committee that involved teachers and parents to look into innovative school designs, programs that they thought would benefit the children that we were serving in Jackson-Madison County schools. We had another committee that looked at facilities, and we wanted to look at the capacity of every building. Could a program be added inside of a school? Because we didn't have any money to go build another school, so we needed to know, do we have the capacity to have a program in a school because it had space and we could expand it? And then we had another committee that was inclusive of government and faith-based organizations, the chambers, and the 2 mayors, and we had that committee that also oversaw the entire process. And it took about a year because we were doing it for a reason. We needed to make sure that we were meeting the needs of all of our students and that we were able to have the money to be able to make that happen. Because the worst thing that could happen is you start something and you don't have enough money and you can't make it happen anymore. That's disappointing, and then people lose a lot of confidence if that happens. I also had a teacher advisory, and I met with the teachers once a month. There were teachers from every campus. There were 27 campuses there, so it was a teacher from every campus, and they were the teacher representatives that would come in and meet with me on a monthly basis, and they would take information back to their staff. I would also do a summary of the memo and of the meeting so that they could share it with their faculty and staff. And we began having conversations about the stage of the district and where we envisioned going. That's how that conversation started. Out of that, because I want to be respectful of everybody's time, out of that came, one, from the teachers, a desire to have an elementary school that would, or elementary program that would best meet the needs of students that were really struggling with behavior. so that we could keep the students in school, we could reduce suspension, but we could also address the fact that we needed trauma-informed instruction, we needed the social and emotional instruction. So we needed more than math, science, language, arts, and social studies. We needed some other resources to really help the student to be better successful in a school setting. Students were very, very bright. It was the conduct that was not conducive, and the teacher said, we need help. Can we do something? And we designed an elementary, we called it the Best Academy because it served the behavior and emotional stability and transition for students. And the goal was to be able to take the students where they were, help them so that they could transition back to their regular school, but be more successful because the behavior would have been modified. The innovative schools, we had students, I had a student advisory. I don't know if I mentioned that to you. The students would students would tell me, we have programs and we have honors classes, but they're not the same honors class at this school as it is in this school. And I started looking into that, and it was true. You know, this school may offer an honors class, and it was an advanced placement class, and students were doing really, 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 really well, and they were taking the AP test, and they were scoring very high. But this school was offering AP, but it didn't have the same syllabus, it didn't have the same action plan, and students weren't required to take the AP exam. And so students were taking a class separate from the other students, but it really wasn't very strong. And so we knew we had to build up the capacity of our staff to meet the needs of our students. So we created that academic academy, which addressed the gifted and talented students. We didn't have to do a pull-out program anymore. We could offer honors classes as well. Students could take those courses, and we asked teachers to go and to look for students that could take these classes to challenge them to do even better. So we didn't want to create an exclusive environment. We wanted teachers to challenge and to push students to doing things they never imagined doing. And that's what they did in that middle school academy, and then early college high came out of that as well. And what we did with early college high, we, again, came from committee. We created an environment for first-generation college attendees. They were the first ones that were thinking of going to college. They perhaps would not have enrolled in the early college high because they didn't necessarily take honors classes, and we wanted to challenge them. So the way we did that, we identified students, we asked parents to be a part of the interview process. We wanted them to be able to know that these were opportunities that they could earn college credits while they were freshmen and sophomore in high school, and that it would have an opportunity to graduate with their high school diploma and as much as an associate's degree. And that school is in its third year now. It's tripled in size, and we're meeting the needs of students that, had they not enrolled in that program, they probably would never have taken an honors class. And their students are saying things like, I didn't know that I could do that kind of work. But we put in some supports, and we've experienced a lot of success with that. And I also challenged the other schools to add advanced placement courses and honors courses, and to be very strategic about following the syllabus. So we had the training, the professional development. We made certain that if an honors class was occurring in one school, it was also occurring in another, and it had the same standard for excellence. And we saw an increase in the number of courses that they offered. That's how I engaged teachers and students and the community to be able to create what we needed for that community, and that's what I would do here.
Hello, my name is Lorena Salazar. I am a resident of Lawrence, and I am a community organizer at Lawrence Community Works. We do have a partnership with the Lawrence Public Schools, working in creating family engagement in the schools to expand family engagement. And I would like to know, what are two keys for student success from your point of view? And if you were hired superintendent tomorrow, what would be like the strategy for you to implement that, those strategies for student success?
So to answer your question about how to use the community engagement and the community involvement to be able to assure that our students get the very, very best, it takes a deliberate action and a staff, along with the superintendent, that's very open to bringing people in. Sometimes people are not very comfortable coming to schools, and that's okay. Can you meet people besides the schoolhouse? Do you go to community events? Do you connect with parents outside of the school day? Do you have programs that have an invitation for parents to come in and see how well their students are doing in school? And we have to be cognizant of the fact that sometimes, even if parents are not physically there, they still care about their children. They may not be able to come because they're working 2 or 3 jobs. Maybe there's some other factors contributing to that, but there's some family or community events in the neighborhood that they attend, and they need to see the superintendent and teachers and staff attending some of those. And I think that's one way that you do that. Another way that we were able to do that is by establishing community schools. And the community school was the hub of that community. It engaged the businesses that were around, the universities, as well as businesses, and we also engaged with faith-based community so that they could provide some volunteer services within the schools. An example of how we brought in 500 volunteers to help children is in my previous district, we brought in an Arise Jackson program, which brought in 500 community volunteers that were trained to work with the second graders. And they came in twice a week. They worked with the second grade students, and they worked with them on literacy. And it was a meaningful way to get the community involved because people wanted to get involved, but it was very strategic in saying, this is how we need you to be involved. And what we saw is we saw students beginning to love reading. They felt more comfortable with the words. Now, they did not have to be trained like a teacher. They were sight words that they needed to help children with. And I think that it has brought a community together to know how they could best serve the needs of the children, because we all own this. And we have a commitment, we have an obligation to be able to make our communities better. So this is a way to be able to do that. I think that engaging with the various community groups that are already in Lawrence is a great opportunity to continue the work that you're already doing, but also to think about new ways that we can work together to make it even better. Okay. Thank you again for your warm welcome, your great questions. I hope I answered them. If I did not answer them, or you have other questions that you would like to ask me, if you will make those available to any of the staff here, they will make certain that I get those. I'll answer to their emails, and I certainly hope that we meet again for good. And if that is the case, then I will tell you that I will work very hard to do absolutely the best for all children in Lawrence and be very engaging to the families and the communities and the businesses that are so invested in the great work that you're doing. So thank you very much.